Yeah. Cheers. You're watching the internet's leading early childhood innovation channel. Each week, we release new videos spotlighting innovation in preschools, kindergartens, and early childhood centers from all over the world. Welcome back to Early Childhood Innovation. Today, we're sitting down with Colleen, Sam, and Olivia at Above and Beyond's Gate Paw Center. Last week, Sam showed us around the center. If you haven't had a chance to check out that video, I highly recommend doing so. And if you're liking the new content on our channel, go ahead, like, subscribe, and say hi in the comments below. And for today's episode, we've added some handy timestamps in the description below. So if you want to skip ahead to a certain topic, go ahead and do so. And in the spirit of Alice in Wonderland, we had today's discussion over a cup of tea. Yeah, just wondering if you can tell me a little bit about the community at this center.
So I think at the centre we have, a lot of different cultures and things like that. So we try and involve them as much as possible, getting their views on everything and then, using it in our practice and in our everyday.
Right.
Yeah.
And we do want to be really respectful of the many cultures that we have in here. And we've found over the years that it tends to be quite a oral culture predominantly that we're working with. And so when we're engaging with parents, it's really important because often they will relate better with storytelling. So we spend quite a lot of time interacting and talking with the families at this particular centre.
And it is a really mix of nations, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, from German to, like we saw down there, Tongan, and it's amazing.
How do you ask for their involvement with the different cultures?
I think it's just communication, just having those open relationships and them being able to, comfortable enough to approach us and talk about what's important to them and
building the trust.
And what have you found is most successful in building the trust?
I think the core is relationships. Yeah.
So it's time, it's investing time and having enough staff rostering enough staff that when parents come in, we have got someone to greet them and to talk to them and to just engage and begin that communication process and then develop it once they've established that. We want them to feel welcome here so that we try and incorporate the cultures one way or another, whether it's through the resources, whether it's through a variety of staff. You'll notice we have many different ethnicities on staff, which is really intentional.
When you have a parent event at Gate Paw, it just goes off and like nanas and granddads,
aunties
and uncles.
Wonderful.
Everybody comes and it's a real event, and so it shows that the centre's kind of made a spot in the community that people feel like they can come to all those things.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And I guess that's reflective of the cultures that we have here, that they don't come in isolation. It's not just mum or mum and dad.
Their whānau
It's their whānau involved in the life of the tamariki, which is awesome.
I think it's a real privilege to be across lots of communities in this Tauranga Moana region, and each community has different strengths and different needs, and what we want to be is responsive to the community that we're in. And so in some cases it might be a lower socioeconomic community and their needs are very physical needs. This is really general, but mum's probably at home, or quite likely that she's at home and available to the parents, but their needs might be more material things, just the basic food and clothing kind of things. And then in another one of our centres, the community might be a really busy and quite stressed community because mum and dad are trying to make ends meet and they're both at work and they've got, it's not material things they're lacking, but it's the time to invest in their children. And so we can respond to that in a different way by, I guess one way that we can do that is to make sure that we do have the time that the parents wish they had but don't have to be sitting individually with children and reading them stories, or just spending the time one-on-one with them or in small groups. And also to provide events outside of work time that will encourage parents to come in and to experience what we can offer in the centre with their children. So that might be, we've had fathers event, well there's a fathers events one that comes to mind, where we set the centre up exactly as it would be during the day, and the dads came in and spent a couple of hours from, I think it was from 5 or 5:30, just being with their children and seeing that side of it. So yeah, I think that's one of the keys of early childhood really, is being really responsive, aware of the community that you're in, and being really responsive to it.
Can you tell me about some of the events that you do host?
Well, we've had heaps.
Yeah. Father's Day breakfasts. What else? We had Valentine's Day breakfast. We invited the community into our back playground, and we had different performers on the stage over 3 nights over Christmas.
And we had a grandparents' morning.
Morning tea for grandparents.
I feel like there's always an event here. It's just, there's always something.
Yeah.
I saw the outdoor stage that you have. Can you tell me about some of the events that have happened on the stage?
I guess that Christmas one was an obvious one when we opened the centre, not just for one night, but over a series of nights with different performers coming in and the children also participating in that. So it was kind of like a 3-day concert.
Yeah. We had dancers
That's
come and
right.
do some
Hip-hop
hip-hop dances,
dancing, yeah. That was
ballet
cool.
dances. I can remember 2 musicians doing a little concert on that stage, and we've got a photo of it, and the kids are just sitting there like right at the front, just absorbing it all, and it just looked awesome. Yeah.
So speaking of performing, can you tell me a little bit more about the welcome we received this morning?
Yeah, so that was just, like every day they sing and do waiata and things like that. So that was just, to welcome you guys and make you guys feel included, and having the different cultures in there. And
Talk about the talking stick.
oh yeah, and so they have that stick that each child held, and that you have to be holding the stick to be able to kōrero, to talk. So that's why they passed it on. And at mat time, usually whoever's holding mat time, teacher, they will hold that stick and then have a kōrero before they do the waiata. Yeah.
And then they pass that stick at mat time around to the different children who want to contribute at mat time.
Yeah. And so they all understand that if they want to talk, they need to, wait for the stick. And
You've chatted a lot about how you've included the different cultures. Can you maybe speak to some of the challenges of doing that and how you've been able to succeed?
I think the big learning curve early on was that, as I touched on earlier, that it's a really tends to be really oral cultures that are here, and they tell the stories, and that's how traditions are passed on. It's through the dialogue, the communication orally. And, we wondered why at first they weren't engaging so much through the written documentation we were sending out until we suddenly, it was like a light bulb moment. No, hold on, this is the way we do it. But for them, the familiar way is to communicate and to talk orally.
Yeah.
I think that pass done a great job of becoming a part of the community. It's not just there but it's actually, people look out for us on the street. Our neighbours take care of us at night, if they hear any noises and things like that. So I think that people feel ownership, and that they come and really feel like it's their centre rather than just our centre they're going to.
I think it was last year, this doesn't answer your question, it's sort of sidetracking. I think it was last year, we worked really closely with the local police, and they would be running, so we opened the centre during the day, and parents could come in, whānau could come in and talk to the police about issues that were happening in the community, and that was quite a significant time for us. Because I guess it made it a safe place for people to come and talk about their concerns.
Like and a neutral place where they could feel like they could come,
And that was a really successful initiative. In terms of the challenges, I guess you will have seen the variety of cultures. I think it's very easy to overlook some. You suddenly look through the list and say, hold on a minute, we've got somebody from Zimbabwe here, or somebody from South Africa, and they don't, obviously it's specific in Māori, but it's much wider than that. And I think that's a challenge that I found, is actually looking down the roles and looking at the different ethnicities and making sure that we were acknowledging them and then catering for them.
And also that's the participation, sometimes parents are going through things where they need support to be able to come to the centre or support them through that, so it's a privilege to be able to do that in the community.
Thanks for sharing that perspective. No, that's great. With the holiday season upon us, how do you celebrate and incorporate all the different cultures in the center around this special time?
That's a really interesting question, and one that we've had lots of dialogue around. Christmas is a very significant time to me personally, because of my faith, but I also realise the number of children that are here. And I guess we also would it be appropriate to also say that, there are other seasons that we acknowledge, for example, Festival of the Lights for Diwali.
I think so.
So while we definitely do celebrate Christmas, there's also numerous other celebrations through the year that we acknowledge. Matariki is big, and that's an event normally parents are invited to bring kai in and to celebrate Matariki with the children. There's the Festival of Lights for Diwali and the Chinese New Year. Christmas is one of many, and so we just give room for that. We give room for it to be about whatever it is that's important to the parents. So we don't focus hugely on the, it's not about presents kind of thing. Although, actually rewind that, because we actually do.
Authentic.
I think it's been respectful. I think it's been respectful and acknowledging that it isn't as significant to others within the centre as it is to me, although, for many it is a really significant time. So we have our celebrations here, and we have a range of the Christmas songs that we celebrate, the New Zealand Kiwi ones, and the ones that celebrate Jesus' birthday, that those are included in it.
It's the underlying message too, isn't it? Like, it's actually about love and peace and all those kinds of things. So they're universal. They don't have to be directed just around Christmas, but it's a great time where everyone's got it in the forefront of their minds to talk about that stuff.
And being from Canada, maybe I'm not familiar with some of the Kiwi Christmas traditions.
Summertime.
Which is opposite for me. I'm used to white Christmases.
I've always dreamed of a white Christmas.
We sponsor a night before Christmas, which is it's put on by Bethlehem Baptist Church in Bethlehem, in the suburb of Bethlehem here. So we become part of that, and this year we're doing a Christmas Wonderland sort of around the frozen concept. So we're bringing in 5 ton, I think, 5 ton of ice to be part of that, to support them in what they're doing. And that's a really community event. It's known throughout Tauranga with 30,000 or something people attending. Like, it's really big. And so, we sponsor that, which is a great privilege. So we've got the Above and Beyond Kids Zone in there with bouncy castles and the frozen castle and photos and whatnot. So that's going to be really
Elsa, dressed up as Elsa. I've got on camera now.
It might be better.
It's on camera. You can do it now.
To be determined. Elsa character roles need to be filled.
Yeah. A winter wonderland. A winter and summer.
Right. So that's another way to maintain community across the different sites.
We do recognise that Christmas is a really stressful time for many families, and pressure, particularly financial or just whatever. It can be a really stressful time, and statistically in New Zealand the child abuse increases hugely. The suicide rate goes up. While we celebrate Christmas, we also recognise that time, and we do what we can to support our families in that. We do encourage families to bring in extra food and food parcels that we then pass on to the appropriate organisations, or else to our families that we know haven't got what they need. And I think that's a really, really valid point, that some families just don't have the financial resources to celebrate Christmas. And we want to be mindful of that while we're talking about presents and gifts and things. We've got that Dr. Seuss quote that we put up at the Te Puna Centre that says, "What if Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store? What if Christmas, he thought, is something much more?" And I think staff are mindful of that through that season.
So you find you get feedback from the families after these events?
Yes, and usually attendance grows when they start their children in the centre. They kind of just mum and dad come, but then as they come to more things,
spirals.
Everybody,
the community grows.
Yeah, it grows.
Earlier, Colleen was mentioning how they really try and create a safe space for community members to come to the centers for support. The staff really do go above and beyond to maintain relationships with families and host community events. Now we're going to hear a little bit more about how they maintain their community outreach.
We had a parent that worked locally in the community, and he used to go and get bread from was it a bakery or something like that, and bring it, and it used to sit in our reception, so with paper bags, and parents could take it as they left. Yeah,
It's a nice contribution.
yeah. And that wasn't our initiative, that was just somewhere that he thought was a great place to do it from. So
The relationships that Sam mentioned earlier is really, really important, because it means that we become really integrated into their family life, and we can support them in ways that are, particularly for them. And if it's, for example, a family that's just moved over into New Zealand from another country, it might be they need support and friendship, and even just to find out where different things are in the community. So that need might be quite different from somebody else's. So we just try and build those relationships and strengthen them.
we did have a family that had twins really prematurely, and they were spending a lot of time in Hamilton in hospital, and they got robbed while they were over there. So we were able to collect clothes, like baby clothes. Colleen knitted. We got food together and things like that. So it's just that kind of thing that when you're already stressed to the max, something like that happens, and we can support them through it.
And weren't those twins their 7th and 8th children or something? Like they had a big family already.
Wow.
So
and
it was
there was complications, so it was really, they were travelling all the time over there.
hard time.
Yeah, and then to get robbed while they were over there, and the children lost all their toys. So that was awesome to be able to do that.
I then had a chance to learn about the inspiration behind the design and theme for this center. Colleen also spoke a little bit more about her background in early childhood education and how it led to repurposing a neighborhood home into the first Above and Beyond Center. I can't help but be curious about the Alice in Wonderland theme. Please tell me more about that.
The Alice in Wonderland, this was the first centre, as we've talked about before, and it was running as a centre before we kind of rebranded as Above and Beyond and brought in the Alice in Wonderland theme. And we really did want a place of wonderment and exploration, and you will have seen walking through the different layers of exploration, you suddenly notice, the door handles don't match, or the door handles upside down or whatever. So that was what we created, and at that time we also came to our kind of tagline of, we believe childhood should be
Time of fun and exploration.
Children should be encompassed in love, and childhood is a time for fun and exploration. And so that's what's sort of symbolic, and everything's a little bit crazy, and they're allowed to be. We celebrate that. We celebrate the craziness of the centre, and it is really a bit of a crazy centre. The doors are really significant, and that, again, you would have noticed the little door, which is obvious, but the mismatched doors and the handles on the doors, and it was really intentional in terms of symbolic of, we want doors to be opened for the children to be able to be who they were created to be, or go the direction they want to go. It's just quite symbolic, and so that's why there's such an emphasis on the doors that don't match. And it was very undoing for the builders to be asking them to put in French doors that didn't match.
And you were mentioning it was difficult to place the carpet as well.
The carpet layers weren't very happy with us, I don't think, because they've never done anything like that, but how cool was the effect.
Yeah.
With it.
The centre did kind of evolve. It started off, I had centres previously and sold them, and then went into lecturing in early childhood and just doing things still involved in early childhood, but not directly in a centre. And I missed it. I missed the engagement of the families and the children. And so when this house came up, it was a 10-bedroom house. I thought, this is going to be awesome. And it takes a long time. I think it was a year before we got resource consent to turn it into a childcare centre. It made so much good sense to me to have a centre bang in residential areas. And I remember being down at council and them saying, no, they should be in commercial. And I go, but their children, their families, they need to be in the residential area. And so the process took a really long time. Then we established it as just a kind of a standard centre. And I can't remember how long it was, but several years later, I thought, no, we can do better than this. And I had a friend that we worked with and looked at the design of it, and she's crazy left brain. And together, I could have the ideas and the thoughts behind it, but she could put the wheels on it and bring it into be a reality. And so that's when we just decided Alice in Wonderland. It's got so much depth of what we believe about early childhood, and it encompassed. There's lots of sort of theories and philosophies around early childhood. So it encompassed some of those, but it really came from a heart of love for the children and giving them the opportunity to explore and to be creative and to just love the place that they're in.
Yeah. And how it's grown from one centre to a multi-centre now.
I champion the team because truly it's...
And she's being modest. Because it is. It's like when we were talking before about growth, it's like you can't grow unless you've also got the right people, but you've got that vision that everybody believes in, and it's for the right reasons.
Gets behind the aligned vision.
Yeah, and like that's a good example, removing their house when you didn't have to, using that extra money, but to make it really the best place for children.
I remember having a conversation with the bank manager back then, and he could see no reason that I needed the money to remove the house, or to purchase the section firstly, but then to remove the house, because it didn't increase our financial capability in any shape or form. We already were licensed for 50 children, and we're still licensed for 50 children. But look what it's given them that they didn't have before.
Thank you for the warm welcome and the shared tea and tour around the space. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's it for this week's video. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video. At next week's Winnie the Pooh Inspired Center, we're going to watch the children make lemonade, eat lunch from their own garden, and make sustainable wraps out of beeswax. So until then, take care and don't forget, everyone's an innovator.